Hi everyone, this is the Combat Ready Frontline Podcast. My name is Louis Zezeran. I'm an instructor with Combat Ready, and one of the intents of these series of podcasts is to introduce you to my colleagues at Combat Ready who I think are really fascinating and have some amazing stories to tell. Today I'm talking with Eerik Heldna, and he has this really amazing resume of work that he's done in public service. He started as a beat cop in the drug department, as a detective. He has worked as head of the Internal Security Service, head of the Northern Prefecture Police Department, working in the head of military intelligence, head of Estonian Customs Board. He's got this so much amazing experience, and to me is these great examples of a young person who is at the right time in the right place at the re-independence of Estonia and saw these opportunities. He was default aggressive and said, I'm going to get after it. I'm going to make a great career. I'm going to serve my nation. He's done so many things. So today I wanted to talk with Eerik, just have a chat about the good old days, about 1997 when he was a beat cop here in Tallinn. They were now in these areas like Teleskivi and Kalamaja. They're beautiful hipster zones. We can drink a craft beer and have a oat latte, but these were no-go zones back in the day. And I love hearing these stories for how things were. And I just wanted to get to know Eerik a bit better. So let's hear some stories and get on with the podcast. Eerik, welcome to the studio. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, and thanks for the invitation.
You are welcome. And we are fortunate to see you in this full outfit here, this dress outfit. Can you tell us about this outfit, what it represents to you, and why are you didn't wear it for me, I think.
No, actually, I'm wearing it for the very important and simple reason as well. Tomorrow we will celebrate 106th anniversary of our republic, and as I'm also a teacher in two of Tallinn high schools, teaching the national defense. So I have a honor to be at the Pelgulinna Riigi Gymnasium today and have a little encouraging speech for the students and people who gathered there. So
okay, so what are you going to talk to the students today about?
I will talk, I think the most important thing, what we probably all the people in Estonia should think, that we are very fortunate that we are free. We're living in peace, and freedom and liberties they are never for free. You have to work for them. So even maybe on our birthday, we should at least for a second think about it. So enjoy the day, but at the same time think that a lot of people are working pretty hard to secure it.
Okay. And how maybe students can not just think about that, but contribute to that, or maybe some insight into the part they can play beyond just being a good citizen?
Being a good citizen, I think that's the most important part, because if you care about people, if you do your task properly, I think it's already a very, very huge step. And why we think that our students don't care about it, even if you don't think about it like every day and every second, you still contribute. Doesn't matter being a nice person to your fellows in the class, or I don't know, being a good sportsman or musician or whatever, everything which produce kindness around you, I think it makes our republic strong.
I think so too. Well, we contribute to society, and that is more than a police force, that's more than a military, that's more than all these great people that serve our country. We're a society, and we need that richness of Estonia. That's what we're trying to protect. Otherwise, what are we protecting?
Exactly. We protect our values, and like Estonia Constitution said, this country is built on freedom and justice. So every one of us has to think, okay, if that is a freedom, can I use my freedoms by being not nice to anyone else? I think it's not a freedom anymore. It's something else. So responsibility and liberty probably goes hand in hand. And as a reserve officer today, not in active duty, I still have a privilege and honor to sometimes put this uniform and think that I'm also a part of this national defense in smaller and broader sense.
I like that so much, because we just don't have this same attitude to things in Australia. And we can understand why. We're very far away. No one's really threatening us. We don't have there's no worries about this. So we're extremely disconnected from the military or these ideas of service, the idea that I might need to serve others to enable our society, enable us to grow. I'm not trying to say we're a bunch of dicks in Australia. That's not quite it. But that it's a bit more of an abstract idea. We're here in Estonia. That idea, we can relate it very easily. If we don't do something, well, guess what? Some guys are going to come over the border next week if we're not united and thinking about that. And it's more of a abstract and distant idea in Australia. That's not quite what unites us. This idea of Australianness is, but no one needs to really defend Australia. Not directly, I might say.
It would be very hard for me to argue with you because, first of all, I have not lived in Australia, but having some experience with Australian partners, I don't think that the idea of being the member of society or contributing to society is that it's completely strange for Australians. No, because based on my limited understanding, Australia is also based on the principles of freedom, of liberties, and also respecting each other. Being a very diverse society, as far as I understand, respect each other, it's maybe even more important in Australia to be... Of course, I don't know, does exist such thing like a average Australian or typical Australian, skipping from the movie Crocodile Dundee? Probably not, but who is typical Australian? What kind of values he represents? You definitely know it better than I do. But about the threats, does anyone threatening Australia? We live in a world where it's very hard to say that, okay, this country is so far away, we don't care about what is going on. The same for Estonia. Maybe conflicts in the Middle East seems for us like from the first emotion, okay, it's not here, but actually in today's world with all the countries, all societies are so connected and interconnected, it's very hard to say that events in Africa or events in Ukraine doesn't affect us. They do.
I do admit that when I hear these stories about Australia donating the Bushmasters to the Ukraine, our locally made personnel carriers, it makes me feel good. I like that idea that we are doing something that, and also when we send these Bushmasters, these are vehicles meant for combat. They're not tanks. They're something close to an armored personnel character or more nimble than that, that it's something close to us. And it's like we haven't just, I don't know, bought a tank from somewhere. It's a little bit emotional in that we have made something in Australia that's something unique, that's helped us, that works in our environment, and we're donating these to the Ukraine. But let's go on to something where we were recently. You and I just spent about a week in the United States of America, another place that can feel very abstract from the difficulties, the ways of the world. We were training with Echelon Front, going through their course to learn from them. We teach leadership, they teach leadership. We were happy to learn from them. Let's say, what is something that you learned about leadership from doing the Echelon Front course, or something you were reminded of?
I felt very satisfied and happy that our attitude among the instructors in Combat Ready, it's not anyhow, I don't know, on the lower level or something. We definitely have to learn a lot, improve every day, but certain aspects in our trainings, I think we're even doing better. At the same time, I learned pretty good, pretty relevant, pretty interesting hints how to improve our skills. And I think the most important, what I learned, that you can be small, you can come out of the company or society with limited resources, but if you are flexible, if you adapt, if you innovate something new, you can be as successful as so-called bigger players are. So that's definitely one of the things I enjoyed. And of course, staying with such a nice company of very relaxed people who really can support each other. This cover and move thing, it's definitely very important among Combat Ready instructors. I felt safe. I felt fine. I felt happy. That's also a very important part of this trip.
It was nice to have some sunny days and have some unjustified American enthusiasm.
Yes, enthusiasm for sure, and everything big in Texas, like we all know.
Right, there's no good reason to be fired up today, but they are. And sometimes you can be like, Americans, with their rah, 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 jumping up and down. But sometimes I just want it. I just need a good old hit of American enthusiasm, Americana, good spirit, for no good reason. Just that's right. That builds a relationship, that makes us feel better, that inspires us when, we can be often very stoic here in Estonia and we get on with the job. Yes, we do the thing, but sometimes you just need an American to run around and be a bit nuts and you go like, yeah, that's okay too. We can all be a bit different.
Yes, and maybe Estonia and the United States were even a little bit more similar in back in 90s, where Estonia was just rebuilding the society and you had to take a risk. And this enthusiasm, which you mentioned, and sometimes being very fast and proactive. In 90s, I think it was even more in place than right now, which is quite normal because society is developing. My first visit to the United States, a longer stay there, was in 2004, so 20 years ago when I started my studies at the FBI Academy. And of course, I also had to adapt. I saw how huge this country is and how different it is. So if we previously mentioned the typical Australian, so one thing I definitely learned from the first 3 months at the FBI National Academy is that such thing like a typical American does not exist either. So because who this typical American is, a guy from New York or lady from Kansas or Native American from Navajo reservation in New Mexico somewhere. So who is? But you have to adapt, you have to respect each other. And that's true.
I want to go back to that idea that you touched on, that this idea that we can make something happen if you're proactive and you've got this enthusiasm and energy. And to me, in my time in the last 15 years in Estonia, that has been the moral of the story, that Estonia is this place where you could make something happen. That the society was small enough and growing and agile enough and therefore open to these ideas that you could take an idea and grow it and make it. And if we go further back, I mean, after independence, we've got to make something happen. We've got to be default aggressive. We've got to innovate and adapt because there's no other choice. There's all possibilities are open. You are a new country with your own borders, new re-independent country. He will get me every time if I keep saying new country. No, re-independent country. That you get this opportunity to rebuild from scratch almost. And then there's young Eerik. So do you have direct memories of 1991, of those days of re-independence?
Sure, I do. In 1991, I was 14. I was finishing the grammar school. And of course, all these turbulent events, which actually started 88 already, with the singing revolution and all the steps which definitely did lead forward the collapsing of Soviet Union. I do remember I was very passionate about it. I think most of my friends from my class, even when we were playing basketball after the school somewhere in the corner in the suburb of Tallinn, 1992. I remember when Estonia was going away from the Soviet or Russian ruble system to kron. And we were playing basketball in the backyard of one of my friend's house. But the house in Nõmme where he lived, his father was a housekeeper of government residence. And at the same time, the committee who was preparing the next day the monetary reform was meeting there. And then they still remember Siim Kallas and some other people came out and youngsters shouting that, okay, when Estonian crown will come, it will come, don't worry. And next day it came. So that was like maybe some personal thing. Sure. So, being a teenager, being a youngster at this time, of course you remember, but probably you remember it more from this enthusiastic and romantic, and so like an action point of view. I think that my parents, they were at this time they were my age now. They probably remember some difficult aspects.
Right. Okay. So you lose. Were you there? Did you go down to the song grounds when that was happening?
Of course.
You were there. Okay.
Of course I was there. So and remember listening the whole night. The radio broadcast when it was a voting for re-declaring independence in 20th of August 1991. So everything that was definitely followed, even by this 14-year-old kid.
Did you feel when you're there surrounded by so many people in the Tallinn song grounds? We know now that at any moment they could have sent the tanks in. Right, anything could have on the knife's edge almost. Did you feel that in that moment, or did you feel the strength and the solidarity?
Strength and solidarity. Probably at this age, I didn't feel this direct threat, what you were just mentioning. It was encouraging. It was like a wow feeling or something, but I don't remember like a classical fear or something. Again, when you ask my parents, they probably felt something else, but or additionally something else. But it was very turbulent, very fast, very developing time. So situation could change in a week, in a month. And of course, it is somehow a miracle. We have to admit, we used our window of opportunity. Estonia did use it effectively, I have to say. And of course, it was hard, especially the first years, which came after regaining independence, but the whole system had to innovate and adapt. And for some people, to be honest, it was very, very hard to adapt. And Estonia was not very smooth or stable society at this time. It was a lot like Wild West or Wild East, maybe. I don't know.
Sure, things don't get better overnight. And even like a small fact, like you said, that, okay, we've just said now we're independent, but we're still using the Russian ruble for the good part of the next year or something like that.
Yeah, we regained independence in August 1991, and the monetary reform happened almost a year later, 10 months later.
So these institutions, these day-to-day things that we take for granted, they don't change overnight. Someone actually a bunch of guys have to get together in Nõmme and go, okay, this is how we're going to do it. And for them as well to think, we're just setting the economic course for a whole country. I guess you've just got to move. You've just got to be on the front foot. You've got to be default aggressive and just go for it in many of these circumstances.
Yep, and the whole society was very default aggressive. When you think that our Minister of Defense was 26, our Prime Minister was 32, the most leaders of the banks, Hansapank at this time, etc., they were around 30. So the society was very, very young, and in this sense. And of course, the younger you are, you accept more risks, which is normal. Do you do mistakes? Of course you do. I think Estonia did a lot of mistakes, but the faith have been very kind to us, and I hope we'll learn from the mistakes. And today, I think that we don't have to be ashamed, but we have to think what we did wrong. What if we need to be again in this situation? The situation will never be the same, of course. So what we have learned. So these lessons learned always have to be taken. I'm not so sure that any society can be 100% ready to accept lessons learned. Doesn't matter which society, but let's say in 92 I was not probably so mature to analyze it, but after 95, when I graduated from high school and had to start my so-called own life, own career, you had to be more prepared.
You touched on, you talked about the relatively young ages of the people who assumed the positions of power directly after independence. And to me, that's one of the most fascinating stories. I think there's the story of Martlar and his delegation going somewhere and no one believing that he's being left in the corridor because no one believes that he's the guy. How does it, and this is something that you had in your career, when I look through your resume and I look at the positions you've held, and then I do the sums and I work out your age, and I'm like, how was this guy head of the police at this age? And okay, you can kind of see, but if you trace it all the way back in those early days, why wasn't there someone who was 45 who was able to take a position as head of monetary or something, why was there, is it just everyone who was old had a Russian mindset and only the young people got it? Why were the young people there ready to go?
Courage to take risks, probably. And of course, if you have the higher leadership, like you mentioned, Prime Minister, several other members of cabinet, and if they are very young, they definitely try to prefer the younger generation. But you can't say that, only like a 30-year-old people took actions. No, when you think about the first president after 91, Lennart Meri, who was definitely not so young. So most of decision makers, yes, were pretty young. And police, now, many people, of course, had this, like you say, Soviet mindset from an elder generation, which is, again, pretty understandable if you come from this.
Of course, that's their whole life. They've lived like
exactly. That. And Estonia realized very, very fast two crucial things. And I think a lot of thanks to Lennart Meri, that our window of opportunity it's not huge, and it's not going to last very, very long time. So in 95, 96, Estonia clearly stated that we want to become a member of European Economical Union and the NATO, which in 95
seemed like a crazy idea.
Yeah, country. I remember my first salary in police, what it was, 90 euros. The economy
for how long? What? 1 month? 1 week?
1 month, yes. Etc. So of course prices were pretty different, but it doesn't matter. So Estonia had a courage to dream big, but to dream big, you have to take risk. And of course, it's easier to do with the young people. So time also favored us. And when I joined the National Defense Academy at this time, the Police College, 1996, I think Estonia did many things which other countries didn't use. So we had a courage to take it. Now, for example, all institutions, so-called law enforcement and the military institutions, the first course was trained together. So again, in a small country, you get much better understanding. Doesn't matter in the future, will you be the officer in the prison service or fire department or customs or police or military officers. The first year were all together. So you had all this, your basic military training. You had to understand how all this system works. And it was much easier. It was much easier after graduating to go, I know this people from there. So to avoiding the silos, that was very important.
It's such a small country.
In such a small country,
easy to know. It's more clear that we can't have a silo because otherwise I'm me and 5 guys in this department. So It's more clear that, okay, we got to get together to help each other.
And I think in all aspects of life, doesn't matter. Do you want to become a good sportsman or playing piano or write a book? You have to exercise. You have to train as you fight, like we like to say. And it's a 10,000 hours theory as well. So you have to do something constantly and repeat. And I was really a big fan of recently re-established police force. And I remember I think in a high school. So guys who were like 3-4 years older, they just joined this recently reopened police school, and how we look, those fancy uniforms, which of course were not so fancy at all, were cheap and from a cheap material, but for us it was like, wow, something so different. And I really wanted to become like them. So it was definitely my idea from 1992, hey, one day I will join. And when I joined, I really tried to use more than 100%, if it's possible to say so, to use my time and to become better. So I had a privilege and luck in 1998 when I think what it was, finishing second course at the police academy. And I tried to get a part-time job at the recently established drug unit. 21-year-old guy, come on, it's like unbelievable. And I still remember that I had a stupid courage enough, so I went by public transport to the police headquarters at this time. Somehow find the cabinet of the commissioner of this established unit, and said, I want to work here. And he looked at me and said, okay, and what is your previous experience? I said, no, I had been 2 months at the street patrol unit in Kopli. That's it. Yes. Okay.
But you're in the school as well, right?
Yes,
now.
yes.
Okay, so you're still in school.
I was still in school, so a young cadet walking there, hey, I want to start to work here.
Yep.
Is it possible to do like a part-time job in a drug unit? He looked at me and said, yes. And I later asked him, Kalev, why did you do that? He said, because it was so crazy. And if this guy really wants to do it, why not to give a try? And it definitely kissed my ego, I know. But it also pushed me to work a lot because everybody else was a little bit older. For me, wow, old guys, definitely old, of course, 27, 28. But so that's how it started. And it was 98, and in 2001 I became chief of this unit.
So, right, that's these amazing opportunities that are afforded. That if you're working hard, you're doing well.
Window of opportunity was open for a short time.
What inspired you to focus on drug-related crime?
I didn't know anything about drugs, by the way, before. And I have to say that I never even tried marijuana or ecstasy or amphetamine or any other party drugs. So the only thing, my knowledge about the drugs, like maybe some films, some movies, maybe some books, and the image of this recently established drug unit. Wow, it's from scratch, like great dangers. They do undercover stuff.
Sounds pretty cool as well.
Of course. Okay. Ego, it was cool. It was a lot of action. So where else? And of course, other units probably would not accept such a youngster. But because this unit was created from scratch, okay, let's try. If I would knock on the door of a homicide unit by this time, it was like a crown jewel of a Tallinn criminal police. They probably would suggest me to continue to work for some years somewhere in a district police office, which I think would be a reasonable advice. But my first chief from a drug unit accepted this risk, and I hope he was not disappointed later.
Okay, so because it's a relatively new department, you also felt that there would be opportunities. Somehow there's an instinct, even in young Eerik's head, that I reckon the opportunities here, because they're maybe a new department, I might have a chance.
Exactly that it was. And what is funny, this department was officially established on the 1st of April, the Humor Day, 1998, and I joined on the 2nd of April. So.
Okay. So straight away, what are some of your day-to-day duties? Almost straight away, or do you just get sent out in the beat with some other guys, or what are you doing? I had your first days and weeks and a couple of months into this position.
I had a big luck or opportunity, so I was assigned to one guy who was 27 at this time, and had a little bit more experience from a police work previously. So, as the unit was established from the scratch, and the drug situation in Estonia was a pretty new thing as well. By this time, we have to understand that the closed society is Soviet Union, so the drug business was a little bit different. So it was not so much international. It was like a domestical poppy stuff and misuse of different medicine, and of course this cannabis products coming from the former Soviet republics like Kazakhstan and so on. But when all the borders opened and society was very unstable, of course, all this homemade poppy heroin spread on the streets. So we started from the street level just to understand how the street level drug crimes work, who is organizing, the selling drugs on the street, who are those drug addicts are. And that was a very important lesson to learn how to communicate with the people who are different, who has different path in their life, who maybe has not been so lucky as I have been, because I still had a chance to continue in a school and find a job. And so for 20-year-old young man, it was very eyes-opening. So you had to adapt and say, wow, you're going to be humble, because life will humble you anyway. It was hard. It was definitely learning from the streets. So 99% of my everyday job was going on the streets and trying to understand, okay, how the street drug business working, who is selling drugs, who are those drug addicts. Okay. Very basic.
Was it like, okay, that's where we have to start. When we've got independence is it that you say the borders were more porous, were more in those days? Were you trying to rebuild the institutions? So was there a period of time before Estonia had locked down the borders or something like that, or there are varying degrees of this, that it was easier for the drugs to come in from outside of, let's say, USSR countries or states, and that sort of all of a sudden you're getting these different drugs, as you're implying, and West and different things that weren't available before?
Now, open society has advantages and disadvantages. Of course, you can build something like a North Korea and close a society and say, hey, we have less problems. Then you definitely will face completely different problems and even more dangerous ones. So Estonia, since the beginning, was a very open society. And of course, Estonian criminals also looked, now it's possible to do something very criminal in the neighboring countries. And unfortunately, our Finnish colleagues had to suffer to fight with Estonian drug crimes a lot. And in 2000, even the first common unit or shared unit or joint unit was established, Finesto, which consisted of 4 Finnish police officers and 3 Estonian police officers, who tried to build a very close relationship. Okay, how are we going to fight the drug crimes on the both side of a Finnish Gulf? And I don't know how, but I was selected for this unit. So in September 2000, this unit started. And I had a chance for the first time to experience what it feels when you start your working day in Tallinn. Maybe at the lunchtime you jump on the ferry and you end up somewhere doing a home search at the Estonian criminal hiding place somewhere in Espoo or Jyväskylä.
Sure.
That was great. That was really great. We still have a very good relations and contacts with our Finnish partners from this time. And yeah.
That entrepreneurial spirit that has grown Estonia, that led you to want to serve your country. It was also the same entrepreneurial spirit that some drug dealers went, hey, we got some new business happening here, new opportunities. We can do our business in a completely different way, to the detriment to the nation, of course.
And they were shocked, saying, it's an Estonian policeman here. I said, yeah, welcome. We didn't see you in Tallinn, but I'm here now. So I still remember one of the old, because the Finnish colleagues definitely were at the age like our parents and very experienced. And I remember one of the guys, he's unfortunately passed away now. And our office was in the building of Finnish Central Criminal Police in Vanda, close to Helsinki. And we had to sign the papers to get the access cards.
Okay.
And I signed it, put all my personal details, date of birth, and I remember the guy looked and said, "Really? You already graduated from school and you served the military? Basically, are you adult? Can I really sign this paper?" I said, "Yes, sir. I'm 22." Mm-hmm. Nice to know. So, of course, they made a lot of fun and jokes, but they actually encouraged us and they trust us. And that was a very, very great experience.
Let's come back to those early days of you being on the beat, you walking around. So let's paint a little bit of picture of Tallinn at that time. Now, we know Tallinn is this lovely place right now. We're here in the beautiful Telliskivi Cultural Center here. I can go down and get a craft beer. I can get some lovely international food right down there from the Lendav Tallerik, get some beautiful Indian food. Now, as I understand, this is not quite what even this district was like. Let's take even Telliskivi, this place of hipsters, of funny haircuts, of craft beer that we know and love these days. What was the Telliskivi, Kalamaja area like when you first started?
Definitely it was no-go area for the foreign tourists. So everything which crossed Toompuiest after
that,
Balti
not even Balti
Jam after in the dark, if you're a tourist, you really go there? Come on. Now, it was not a wise idea. So my first patrol service job was, by the way, in the same area. Erika 15 was then the police office, which was more or less looking like abandoned place.
Okay.
I still remember that on the second floor there was a chair placed in the middle of the corridor because to avoid the huge hole in it, because one of the investigators fell there because it was so rotten. And And it was a time when Suzuki Vitara, the first Western police cars we received, it was so huge problem with a budget. So I think the car had like a 5 to 7 liters gas per shift, and if it was over, then you just maybe walked to some.
That was it.
To
So
some
you
crime
had a
scene.
certain amount of fuel that you were allowed to use per shift because we had a fuel ration, a fuel budget. So okay, if you wanted to go somewhere else, would they only give you 7 liters and then the car would just stop, or you know that if I use 8 liters, I'm going to be in trouble with the boss later?
No, it's innovate and adapt. I remember with my partners that one of the, was it a shoplifter? Was it a thief was stopped and some people stopped them and called the police, said, hey, please come and take this guy. And so we walked almost half a mile, took this guy and walked back on the street because the gas was over.
Okay.
So, and it happened. It happened. So everything was like lacking, but the enthusiasm probably was pretty high. So, and when I joined drug unit, which was like wow, one level up in 1998. So we had one computer. 2 typing machines, and one was donated by the Finnish colleagues. It was an electronic Canon typing machine, so it was a little bit higher level. And we had 3 cars, one Lada 2106, old Volkswagen, and then one new Volkswagen Charan as well. So we were very lucky to have it.
Okay, that was the Charan is the van.
It was a
that was a
van,
van. You can
yes.
put somebody in, and
Yeah.
you don't have to walk them back to the police station in some sort of
But of
handcuffs and the ultimate walk of shame when the whole neighborhood can see you being led away by the police.
Some stories from other districts. I know very good police comrades from this time who had to bring the handcuff guy to the public transport, and then they went, yes, and then they walked. One case,
Have you got your ticket validated, sir?
yeah, one case I personally know when the guy was handcuffed to the rail, and they were driving back with the investigator back to the office, and the whole bus was staring. Oh, really? So, but in '97 it was still pretty normal.
Sure, okay. I mean, that's good for public relations as well. Hey, the police are doing something. We can see it right here.
We have to keep in mind that when Estonian police started pretty early in '90s to ask people, do you trust police? So the level of corruption, the level of, let's say, misconduct and the bad behavior was pretty high. So I think it was 95 when Estonian police first time did a public poll. Okay, do you trust Estonian police? It was more or less 30% of people who did, okay, we do trust. Now we talk about percentage over 80. So times has changed. Estonia has made, of course, huge development, but it came with a pretty high price.
Sure. I mean, that trust in the Estonian police is something that's always impressed me. In Australia, we have, I think, some sort of inbuilt distrust of the police. And I think that can be traced all the way back to the original police were British soldiers 200 years ago. They did not treat, when you have soldiers who are police, you'll be very familiar with that. We can't have soldiers who are police protecting the internal people. That just leads to very bad situations, abuses of power. And that went on for a very long time. And I think we still have, just somehow in Australia, look, I absolutely know the police are there. They're doing their best. They're trying. I don't think they're a bunch of dicks. But there is some inbuilt distrust of the police. If I won't typically think, my first thought isn't, I'm going to go get the help from the police officer. Like, if I need help, right? But it's just sort of like something. And I've seen my young Estonian friends who are like, oh, I don't know what to do. There's a helpful officer over there. I'll just go ask them. I'm like, no, stop. It's just, and I have to confront that instinct that I have. And it's just cultural. It's not even like something that I haven't seen the police do bad things besides pull me over, which I probably justifiably. It can be built in the culture, so that your police did such a good job of now, in the span of 20 years, let's say, turning that number to be the opposite is quite amazing. And to get that corruption out of the system, I've been here since 2006, and I even understood in 2006, this is not Eastern European corruption stereotype. You know, I couldn't, like, maybe there's some stereotype, you put the 100 kron bill into the passport or something and pass it across. Look, and maybe that still happened, whatever there. But even then in 2006, I understood this isn't really the way of doing business here.
2006, you're absolutely right. This type of business was was gone, like we say, a street level or massive or common corruption,
Right,
like they sometimes call it. So I'm not a scientist, but I think there is two aspects which helped Estonian police to gain trust. First of all, Estonian police tried from the very first day, which is strange. Estonian police was re-established before Soviet Union collapsed. So in March 1991, Estonia already passed a police act, which was strange. We still had one militia school in Tallinn, but at the same time we had already police force and a police school in Paikuse. So it was like a transition period there. But since the beginning, Estonian government tried to show, hey, we are doing something new. So this will be something else. It's not putting a militia into the police uniform. And I think it took us almost 7-8 years, maybe 10 years. So somewhere by 2001, we can say that Estonian police was pretty okay. But of course, in 1995, we had 365 homicides in Estonia. We had 82 bomb explosions, so between different gangs. We have 400 people who died in a car accidents. Now we talk that, hey, we need to get lower than 40. So we talk about maybe 20, 30 homicides per year. So society has also turned to be more respectful to each other, more caring. And police or military or any other law enforcement or so-called power institutions, they are not something like completely separate from society. They're reflecting the society. If society develops, they develop, and vice versa. And what you explained, this 100 crowns between the passport or whatever. So we had a huge problem with a border corruption, the custom corruption, and the traffic police corruption. It was all there in 90s. But I think Estonia did a very good thing, that not turning eye away. Oh, it's not bothering us. But we understood, again, coming back to this window of opportunity, at what Lennart Meri, our president, told, if we will not use this window of opportunity now, and in 95 said, we need to be member of NATO, we need to be part of all European structures. But to be there, you need to change your mentality. If you don't change your mindset, you will never be there. If you are not there, we all understand that if Estonia wouldn't get invitation to NATO in 2001, to be accepted in 2004, we would never be there, because in 2007 it was definitely too late.
It was already off the table. Okay, so there's this sight of this bigger picture. So human beings, it's clearly very motivating on an individual level for these Estonian people to think, look, if I act in a better way, then I can see this knock-on effect that is going to help my country. But then we also have the ground level, where if I'm just not paid enough money, I have a much higher inspiration that maybe I will take 100 here, 100 here, and start turning blind eyes. How did the police force balance that? You obviously don't have a lot of money either to pay all these guys. So you've got to balance their patriotism versus making sure these guys can live and they're not tempted by the dark side.
Exactly. And that's very important, because you cannot feed people only on a big slogans and mottos. It has to be supported. In 1999-2000, Estonia police took a very drastic decision to reduce the staff, I think, by 30%, and raise the salary for other people. So it started to be, okay, we are not able to be everywhere, we're not able to do everything, but what we do on the perfect way, or at least on a very good way. And if we look on the number of a police and border guard board, which is right now approximately 5,000, border guard and police, where they joined together, there were approximately 8,000.
Okay.
So of course, the number was reduced. I had also privilege to serve as a head of customs. And when it was a custom department in 2001, it was approximately 2,000 people in customs. Okay. Right now it's 350.
Huh.
So it is possible to do in a different way. It doesn't mean that you serve your society worse, but you have to adapt. You have to think, okay, our society is getting smaller. We don't have enough money. What we are going to do? And it's not only applying to the law enforcement. So the same situation were in the military, in border guard, etc. But I think Estonian governments, all governments in a row, did a very clever decision that we will invest in people. We will invest in salaries. We cannot make them rich, but we will provide a decent living. And if we see that the number is too high, okay, we have to reduce the number of employees. And that was painful but correct decision since the beginning. And it definitely helped those people on the street and said, okay, if I do harder work, then I probably receive something better.
Okay, sure. If I work harder, I'll get a little more money. So there's less chance that I need to take 100 here and there from somebody else. And I guess they're also looking around and seeing people who it's really clear all of a sudden, if I work hard, I'll go somewhere, which your career is a testament to that. So I'm sure you're not the only person who has worked very hard and moved up the ranks or moved between positions very quickly. So they're seeing like, okay, I'm helping my country. I'm getting by. We're not very rich, but I'm also, at least we're getting by. And I have these amazing opportunities for advancement. Because within a couple of years, your second job, you said you worked in the crime unit. You were a detective. So you'd graduated the college or the cadet school by then, and you'd already had this experience in the drug crime unit on the beat. So now you're a full detective? What was this second position you're in?
Then I raised in the ranks within this unit, and as I told, in 2001 I became head of this drug unit. I stayed there for 4 years on this position. It was a very interesting time to see how the country was developing. And in 2006 I had a chance to become the head of a Tallinn criminal police, which was the biggest criminal police unit, more than 400 people at this time. And that was already a position where I felt that, wow, I'm probably lacking some of experience because...
this is around 2005, when you're head of the criminal department,
yes,
do you mean? Okay.
Yes, Tallinn criminal department. I think that that was, by the way, one of the most exciting and fast development posts I ever had, because it was so dynamic still. It was middle of 2000, and Tallinn was definitely a crime capital as well for the whole Estonia. It was not anymore like a wild 90s, sure, but it was still a lot of to do. And Estonia already being a part of different international institutions. So it was very, very dynamic time. And within this time, I don't know, I cannot call it a privilege, but I had to do something also with my very good team. 2007, the Bronze Night riots happened.
I remember,
And like we were laughing later that if security service had to take care of the organizers, if Central Criminals Police had to take care of the one homicide case which happened during this events, but who had to deal with all those 1,200 arrested, detained persons who were just robbing on the street?
Okay, the looters.
Yes, looters. Welcome, Eerik. That is your job. I don't know how you're going to organize, but you have 48 hours to interview this guy, to go to the court if necessary with some of them, and to find evidence. And time is ticking because it's still the same criminal procedure code. You still have 48 hours and you still have to do something with evidence. So
the idea is if you don't process them within 48 hours, then you legally have to push them back out on the street. Okay, so we've got a bunch of criminal under life or whatever the guys in jail with Gucci belts and some new Hugo Boss pants that you can't prove they got them that night, but all of a sudden we've got the best looking jail cell.
Because not even a jail cell, because jails were fully packed. Okay. So we had to adapt. Okay, so we have again like maybe 200-300 guys just detained, grabbing alcohol from broken windows and looting on the street. Where should you put them? And then you have to innovate and adapt. Okay, we have a Tallinn harbor. We have huge hangar there. Let's make it like a temporary arresting point or something. So you had to, 72 hours we definitely didn't sleep.
Sure.
And but that was not intentionally, but somewhere like later. Now, I think now in Combat Ready, when I started to analyze my previous experience, I said, wow, I actually somehow automatically, not in the perfect way, but somehow instinctively, I did some basic principles. So I had to innovate and adapt. I could scream, oh, come on, Ministry of Justice is not providing a prison cells. Okay, will it change something? No. Oh, I don't know, prosecutor will ask for more evidence, but I don't have, stupid prosecutor. Or I don't know, judge does not understand that it's a different situation on the street. You can whine, you can argue, but the guy is still there, and it's still your responsibility. I have to be very grateful, both the prosecutors and the judges, because they all innovated and adapt. So for the first time in my experience, judges said, okay, don't bring these arrested people to the court. We will do the court process in police jail. We will come there.
Okay.
So you can spare your time and your effort not bringing them to the court. Prosecutor, they can work in the same office with your investigators. Okay. They don't need to be, the papers sent back and forward. It was not so IT developed country at this time. And et cetera, et cetera. So relations were built so good before. So when you pick the phone and said, hey, I'm really in trouble, what we can do better? So people said, Eerik, I think that we can do this and this. So what I definitely didn't learn at this time, or I didn't know how to implement, was probably be humble.
Okay, sure.
That was not because
we all struggle with that at a young age.
That was my idea. I was a chief. I was not detached, because if it was something on the street, was it really necessary for the head of a Tallinn criminal police unit to put on the police jacket? I want to see how the street fight is going on. No, it is not a job, but I was on the streets, of course, to see and to oversight. No, 27-year-old guy, probably that was also one reason.
So you're fired. Okay, so this night's happening. You're fired up. Now, you could also say that as the leader of this group, maybe you want to go see the front lines. This is an extraordinary situation where you would like some intel on the ground, but is it because it sounds, reading between the lines of your words, that you wanted to be on the street maybe a bit because, okay, as the leader, I need to see what's happening in this extraordinary situation, but was it a bit more like, I'm fired up, I want to be in the middle of this?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
Yeah.
I definitely wanted to see how my guys are doing.
Sure.
Which is okay. But to be everywhere, the smartest person in the room, I don't know, trying to be present at the interview where some of the people were interviewed and saying, oh, yeah, we need to do this and this, and please ask this question. That was not necessary. That was definitely not necessary. And I struggled it later as well. It sometimes gives your team, at least what I have experienced, gives your team good feeling. Okay, this man is behind me. If something happens, he's take responsibility. On the other hand, you take away the initiative because that's you who want to have a sunshine. And I remember years before, I was still at the drug unit. I was maybe worked there for 1.5 years, so pretty young, pretty fresh. And of course, I wanted to prove that I also have a good information, and I also know how to arrest the big criminals. And it's my information. I want to show that I'm the best. And I remember I told my colleague who was working at the same room and said, hey, I have a good information about one guy selling heroin close to Stockman. Let's go to check. Come on. Plan this operation. Share this information with others. Say, maybe it's something bigger. Not try, hey, let's 2 of us go and arrest. And we present it like a big case. And we went. Even we had information that this guy was armed. Come on. He will not bring the arm on the street, come on, in the broad daylight. We didn't even know his name. We knew approximately how he looks like, where he's usually walking, and he has an apartment somewhere where he's hiding a bigger amount of drugs and cash and stuff. So no preparation, but just ego to show, hey, I can also to arrest someone. And we went, and I have to be very grateful to my partner, because this suspect, at a certain point, he realized that these two guys in a plain clothes walking close to him, they're probably not customers, and they're not just walking here in the daylight. And he turned around and saw that he actually had a gun in his hand, and we had a maybe 6-7 meters distance. And then I first time realized now it's over, because he's definitely going to shoot. I don't know how my partner jumped on him, but he was
From
like
6-7 meters away, just close the gap like that.
he was like a little bit further. So I saw from he's jumped, and he managed to grab him down. Wow. We found the keys of apartment. We found heroin. Pretty big case started because we found the people who were supplied him and people connected to the organized crime circles. It was very great case, but because of my ego, it might go like this in a little bit different way. So again, the destiny or the faith was very, very kind to me at this time.
So
But
you feel you were lucky then. It could have easily have gone. If he
Yes.
got the shut off half a second earlier.
that would be why I did it. Ego.
Here you go.
But at the same time, I wanted to be default aggressive. So being default aggressive, taking responsibility, that I learned always. Being humble and check your ego, many, many years I needed to understand.
Well, these things always need to be in balance. That's the dichotomy. That's
That's
the
a
tough
balance,
part,
and
right?
I
Yeah.
never understood. Okay, where is the balance?
Right.
You always struggle with the balance, and probably even in back in these days, and when this was no-go area where we're sitting now, and not on every corner.
Cafes. And,
Yes, it was no cafes. It was a drug selling point. So one of the houses, Kopli 69, if I'm not wrong, the nickname it was Buchenwald, and the reason was because every week at least one dead body was there. So it was like
Set your watches. There's another one coming out this week. Okay.
yeah.
Wow. By
yeah,
the schedule.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying. So that's what
Now,
this area was like.
That's why I'm
Sorry.
saying that when I walk now with my family, for example, let's go to Kalamaja or let's go to Telliski. I said, really? I still feel, okay, it's so much changed.
Right, here I am eating a gluten-free pizza
Gluten-free.
with my oat milk latte. Oh, it's
Oh,
delightful here in
yeah.
Kalamaja today.
If someone would tell me that in 97, are you kidding?
Right, what's oat milk? So
Exactly. What is oat milk? Oh, latte? Okay.
you mean coffee?
Yeah. What
Right.
kind pizza? Gluten. What means gluten? Yeah.
These are the freedoms that we enjoy today because of the service of you and your colleagues back then, just getting after it
because
and
of the
trying.
society again,
Okay.
because of the people, because the money is not coming from the ATM. The people have to invest, and this courage to let's try. I think the business environment was actually the main reason. This entrepreneur spirit, what changed Estonia. Otherwise, we were very close. In 1993, Estonia was very close to have so-called referendum, like in Moldova or Ukraine, what we had in 2014 in northeast of Estonia, so-called Narva Autonomous Republic. If that would be successful, I don't think that Estonia would ever be a member of European Union.
Wouldn't have recovered from losing a bit, right? You lose a bit, then you lose a bit more, and then that's the downhill. Eerik, you have many talks to give today, some wisdom to impart to the young people, so I won't leave you too long today. I love these stories. I could listen to them all day, and I suspect that we could do not just one, but a number of podcasts going back over the Bronze Night, analyzing that scenario from a leadership perspective. I think there's some good material for us in there for the future, going back through what you did. I remember that night, I was in Tartu. I remember hearing the stories. I love, for me, one of the takeaways from the Bronze Night that I take away was the riots. There was one overturned car. As much as I've understood, it was grand total of one overturned car. Do you remember any more? Because I remember one.
I think it was two.
Oh, two. Okay, maybe. I remember there's one Volvo.
I remember this Volvo on Pärnu-Maantee.
Yes.
This Bordeaux red Volvo.
Yes, the red. Yeah, it was orange, red, maroon.
On Pärnu-Maantee. If I'm not wrong, one of the car was also turned over next to the National Library, but I might be. Yes, the amount of damage was huge, but the number of cars were not so high.
Not many.
Not many.
But this one, maybe two cars were then shown on every piece of media, making you think Tallinn was an automotive wreck of a city with cars overturned left, right, and center. And it took me a few days to realize, wait, I'm looking at the same car, just from 20 different angles each time.
But it was a shock for Estonian society, of course,
Absolutely.
because, something like this happened. Even that, okay, somewhere in suburbs of Paris or bigger football game after Bundesliga somewhere, it might be very, very violent. But of course, that was shock. Oh, it can really happen. And it's not lasting for 1 hour. It's going on for the next day. So that was definitely a shock. But we managed to innovate and adapt.
You did. I'd love to return to this topic one day. I'm going to let you go. Eerik, thank you very much for
Thank you
coming
very
today.
much. And head iseseisvuspäeva. Happy birthday, our republic.
Happy birthday, Estonia.